Hey, what's up guys? I am here at the Jordan River Trail in Utah checking out the Fantic XF1 Integra 160. So this is a really awesome electric bike from Fantic. Now if you've heard of the Fantic name before, it's because they also make motorcycles, dirt bikes, based out of Italy. That's where their company's from. But this electric bike has some really cool features that we're starting to see come into the market, you know, with some new popularity. Chiefly that it has a 29-inch wheel up front and it has a 27.5 in the back. And so what that does is that it's definitely from the pedigree of a motorcycle, of a dirt bike, you know, in which the front wheel does more of the control and more of overcoming obstacles, and the rear wheel having more space for traction actually on the dirt, for more, you know, more traction, for more grip on the road, or on the trail rather. So with this bike, it's not a bad bike in the least. It's not like a gimmick by any means, because it has that feature that we're starting to see in more of the dual suspension and more of like the serious electric mountain bikes. But it's also equipped with some really great equipment. So you got a RockShox front shock that's 160 millimeters of travel, as well as the 160 millimeters of travel in the back. And so what you've got there is what, 8 inches of travel? 8 inches of travel, which is phenomenal. And we've got what looks like, if you take a look at, kind of back up a little bit and look at the bike, it looks like you have a pretty aggressive rake there with the front tire seemingly out in front. But it actually has it's almost like an optical illusion the way that they've kind of designed the bike, because it has the exact same, if not a little bit less than, say, a bike like the Trek Powerfly that recently came out. So with the bike being designed that way, you have a lot of room to work with the integrated battery. That's where you get the word Integra, is that the battery is mostly integrated into the frame. So it's not 100% integrated. You got a little bit of uptake right here, but I'm okay with that. So the battery, by the way, is a pretty good size. This one is a 36 volt, 17 point something amp hour battery. So it's a total combination of 630 watt hours, which is a lot of ride time. And yeah, as a matter of fact, Blaine did a 30-mile ride off-road with this and did not manage to kill the battery. So that kind of gives you one idea as to the range that you could expect with this bike. So with the 630 watt-hour battery, that's being utilized by the Brose-S motor. So I'll show you some of the casing that you have around the motor. So you got this custom casing from Fantic around the motor to kind of protect it from damage and wear, which is nice. This bike, as you can tell, is nice and clean and pretty, so not a whole lot of battle scars to show off yet. But nonetheless, that keeps it nice and protected. You also have a lot of really good things in here that a lot of fine tuning in it. You have some wheels that are already set up for tubeless. So as a matter of fact, Blaine already equipped this bike with some custom pedals and some custom stems to make this bike into a tubeless setup. But you also have a short 170 millimeter length of crank here, which is really good for keeping your pedals high off the ground and being able to, again, overcome obstacles. You kind of go back to the large front tire to help accomplish that. But you also got some really good brakes. You have a 200 millimeter rotor on the back, and on the front you've got a 200 millimeter rotor on the front, which is really nice. And these are the SRAM Guide RE. So over here they have the Guide, which is a regular set of brakes. They're good. And then you have a step above that with the RE. And also what you're looking at here is the SRAM GXe for the rear derailleur. So this is a 1x11 derailleur here. Nothing too special about that, but it is what we learned is the E designation. So with the E designation, what that means is that it will shift gears one at a time. So if you have your hands on the grips and you like try to rack it and do a bunch of gears all at once, it's not going to let you do that. It's going to help keep things under control so as not to add additional wear to the chain or the motor system and all the mechanical parts therein. And so you have a lot of attention to detail with things like that in the bike. They didn't just take some frame and slap it together and say, here's our electric bike. They have a lot of things into this. One of the fun features about it, I haven't seen this in a whole lot of other bikes before, a little punch out on the stem. I think that's a nice little added touch. But what's really nice, the grips, by the way, have a little bit of a waffle on the bottom, and they're lock-on grips, which is great. They actually stay on there without having to be compressed with just rubber. But you have the, what's the name of this? The Brose Marquardt. Okay, so this display is called the Brose Marquardt display. I was going to say Makarov or macaroni, a Marquardt display. And this display has some really neat features. It's got the display and the grip attachment kind of built into one. So that means that if you wanted to, you can get some more accessories up front in the cockpit area, and you're not, compromising that at all. You got plenty of real estate here for whatever you want to put on, like your smartphone, your Garmin, a French fry maker, anything that you need. But over here on the display, it's a very streamlined display. A little rocket ship. I love that picture because that's exactly what it feels like. You press the up or down arrows, has 3 levels of pedal assist, and that's how much rocket ship you got. And of course that scales back down. The lights aren't equipped on this particular bike, but it wouldn't surprise me if that exists on other Fantic bikes. They have other bikes, like street bikes, for example. And of course the power switch. It has this toggle, which if you can see has 4 positions on it. So right now it's kind of in default, and you can even kind of press that in like a PlayStation thumbstick. But you can scroll it left to right. So starting in the start position, if you go to the right, you'll go to a really nice feature that I like a lot. I really want to spend more time with it. I wish I could spend years with it. It's a human power wattage meter. So it's telling you how much power that the human is putting out, and that's done by reading the torque sensor that is integrated into the Brose-S motor. And I think that would be a lot of fun. I could start counting calories and stuff. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to do that. Residual range, kind of like a range estimate. In my experience, the range estimates for a lot of bikes are very cautious. This one says 23 miles, but as Blaine has already done, he's done 30 miles before off-road, so I'm guessing more. Tour distance, that's kind of like your trip set. And then of course total distance, your total odometer on the bike, 36 miles so far. And then auto light, I presume that's for the street bikes that have a light feature on them, and then back to normal. So you have a pretty streamlined display. I think I would use all of these features: the total odometer, the trip set, the human power meter. I think that's really cool. I want to try that out for a longer distance. That's about all the stuff that I would use, and I think that's really cool. Lots of electric bike displays have tons of features, and that's cool. Sometimes I can really get into the details, but at least for the moment, I just want to get on the bike and ride it and see what it's going to do for me. So I really like having the more toned down, features, not clogging it up with all sorts of things. So that's definitely one thing that kind of goes across with, again, the aesthetic of having a very large handlebar for more control, and also not having it gunked up with a bunch of stuff. So I want to talk to Blaine. So Blaine, this is your personal bike. Blaine, again, is a brand ambassador for Fantic electric bikes. Tell me a little bit more about the motocross heritage, about the different wheel size, and what brought that about.
All right, that's a great question. So the experience I have personally, been riding dirt bikes since I was young, and I saw the change when dirt bikes had a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear tire. It made a big difference in the handling of the bike. The bigger hoop, the rim, allowed us to roll over things otherwise we didn't roll over so well, and made the cornering better. So what we've got here is we've got a bike with a 29-inch front wheel, 2.4 tire, same kind of effect. We have a 27.5 rear tire, 3.0. What you feel is great cornering, a lot of traction. The front tire rolls over the trail junk, the back tire's pushing, cornering's great. And the other thing I noticed is coming downhill, saddle's dropped, you're coming down a steep hill, you don't have that feeling you're going to go over the handlebars as much. The forks ride higher in the travel, and it feels fantastic. I've had more fun and gone faster than I thought possible on a bicycle. It's something that you ought to try. For those of you who've never tried a different wheel size, it's certainly something that's coming. There are more manufacturers, and it's a fantastic experience.
So yeah, having 2 different wheel sizes is definitely a very interesting thing. Before this, I haven't tried it on any other electric bike, so this is definitely a newer feature. And like Blaine said, they are coming out with this from other manufacturers too. KTM is one of them, and so it's not exactly exclusive, but it's definitely becoming more popular. And bikes like the Fantic XF1 Integra is definitely leading the way with that. Again, the first one I've ever tried with it. Now, having 2 different sizes of wheels is really really kind of a new concept, in that if you're off-road and if you're out on like a longer trail, you might be tempted to carry two different spare tubes, you know, one for the 27 in the back and one for the 29 up front, in case, you know, just trying to prepare for a rainy day kind of situation. But what you can do is that you can carry a 29er tube and kind of cram it in there, you know, for kind of emergency things. So if you're trying to pack up really light and try to keep everything nice and tight, you can carry a 29er tube, just one. Well, you could carry two, I guess, but you can carry a 29er tube and cram it into the 27 if you had to. So that's one thing to consider. But if you want to prepare for all, you know, cover all your bases, you probably should bring two different size tubes, a charger, sat phone, all sorts. No, I'm just teasing you. You definitely want to, you know, prepare for what you need on a ride. If you're going out for a really long ride, definitely make sure you have water and a little reflector mirror. Be a good Boy Scout, you know, things like that. But anyways, I'm getting aside for myself. One thing I've been able to experience by riding the bike, even briefly, is that it definitely has a lot of control. I was able to get it to a pretty high speed, about, what was it, 30 miles an hour or so, coming down a pretty big hill to get to this off-road area that we've been testing it out on so far. And even at that high speed on the road, definitely not intended for that kind of thing on this bike, it was very stable. Having the wider handlebars, another mountain bike feature, is definitely a very welcome feature. And having the larger width on the back definitely helped keep control. But in off-road conditions, like Blaine said, it definitely does very good. But we are going to go for a ride right now, and I'll tell you what it's like. Okay, we just got done with a small ride with the XF1 Integra 160, this bike here, and it's a lot of fun. It really is, especially when we did a little spot of off-road. Primarily we're in kind of a somewhat pedestrian area. You can see the boardwalk here, but we've got access to some trails that kind of go alongside the river, so it's been a lot of fun to go over some small little bumps, and being able to just go head first into some of the obstacles is very much a, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's a very almost liberating feeling to know that you could just dive in head first without having to worry you know, so much about losing traction, about being able to not have enough clearance to get over the obstacles. So it's definitely kind of, I don't know if it's just made my confidence greater, but nonetheless it works. So I really like the bike. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about the bike as far as the specs are concerned is the dropper post. So it has a dropper post here that kind of sinks in, and it does so with the lever here. And it looks just like a regular shifter lever. It was integrated pretty well in there, to the point where when I first saw the bike, I was looking for, you know, a little plunger or something like that up on the handlebars, and I thought, where is it? And then Blaine says, it's right here. I'm like, oh, got it, right. Also, the Physique saddle is pretty good. You have the kind of, I'm assuming, Lycra in the back for the trim area. You got leather for the majority of it, with a little bit of rubber, I guess like accent finish that you've got up front. So despite the low profile of the seat, it really is good for its exact use, which is mountain biking. You've got a pretty good footprint here so that your thighs don't get chafed in the way for longer rides, so it's definitely mission specific for this. And one other thing that Blaine wanted to talk about some of the history with Fantic and more about the company.
Fantic is an Italian motorcycle company. They've been in business for over 50 years. This is the 50-year anniversary. It's a new name to the American e-bike market. We have a CEO, Steffi Bao, a lady that you do well to meet. She is very experienced in motocross with a success record of both being a national and international champion. She brings the success formula of that kind of discipline and the experience of motocross to this bicycle, hence the 29 front, 27.5 rear. We talked about that earlier. Great person. Hope you can meet her someday.
Yeah, me too. Thanks again, Blaine, for letting us borrow the bike for Electric Bike Review. Again, this is his personal bike. Blaine has been a really good sport about letting us use the bike and trash it up a little bit, but very dedicated to the bike and to the company. And you know, it's no question as to why. So yeah, it's a great bike. I look forward to doing a more detailed write-up below. I will see you guys on the forums, and thanks for tuning in to ElectricBikeReview.com.